Hi, I'm Alan Hoffmanner from the Center for Growth Leadership and Agile Edge, and today we'll discuss the concept of reconciling dualities. For example, how do we reconcile the long term with today and the short term? How do we reconcile whether to tell someone what they need to hear or what you think they want to hear? Or whether, for example, to focus on stability and structure or flexibility and adaptability to change? Or go slow or go fast? Or persist or experiment with new ideas? The list goes on and on. How we do these things determines the results we achieve in life. Many of these dualities are paradoxes or polarities. These all involve natural tendencies that we have as well. Some of us, for example, are always blunt and tell people what's on our mind. Others are more indirect and want to please. And if we do these things and don't consider the current circumstances, we get ourselves into trouble. Let's explore these relationships in more detail by focusing first on paradoxes in human behavior, where you have two ideas or concepts that may appear contradictory, but which can in fact both be true. It relates to the concept of both and versus either or. Human behavior is both and, yet we often fail to consider this to our detriment.
The other and even more powerful relevant thing to success goes back to ancient Chinese yin and yang, making trade-offs, paradoxical trade-offs between a number of things. So for somebody in business especially, it's how you formulate new opinions. Are you certain of yourself, or are you open and reflective? Are you both? Are you certain but at the same time you're going to question things? Are you analytical or intuitive?
Let's pull in some psychology and behavioral science. It has been proven that under normal stress, when we are trying to get things done, we make these trade-offs individually and rather uniquely in our own highly predictable way. So let's look at some paradoxical relationship in human behavior with a brief discussion from Dr. Dan Harrison.
Another way of looking at behavior, which we call the paradox view.
Can you give us an example of a paradox?
For example, to be an effective leader, you have to have connection and warmth and empathy with the people that you're leading. At the same time, you have to enforce the rules. So you have to be strong, you have to hold up what the company needs to do as well. So that's a paradox in itself. And people often will go to one side or the other, weakening their stance as a leader. Okay? Another example is that the person needs to look at what can possibly go wrong. They need to understand potential problems that can occur. But at the same time, they have to be optimistic and they have to be positive about what's occurring. So we actually have 12 leadership paradoxes that enable a person to come into balance so that they can interact much more effectively as a leader.
So the best way to understand these and to progress to a point where you can relate these to others and be of value to them is to go through examples. So let's use an actual paradox report to do this. First, note the categories on the vertical and horizontal axes. On top, you'll see the columns that focus on the interpersonal issues, then achieving things, whether it's solving problems or getting plans implemented, and then the third column, which are more leadership issues, involved strategic decisions and judgment, as well as getting things done through people. Then the rows, relating more to what type of action is to be done. So initiating is one example, so how you deal with first impression and form opinions and judgments, then motivating things to happen, then implementing, and then maintaining. So with those examples, let's reinforce the theory. So relating to work behavior, there are two relevant states of behavior. The first one, when you are going about your day, getting things done, accomplishing things under normal work stress, you operate in very predictable ways, making trade-offs between two opposing concepts. And then the second state of behavior, at least for those of us who don't manage stress so well, when things turn very stressful, we predictably flip to the opposite of our strongest traits and imbalances. This is the flip. Whether it happens at all, rarely or even often, can be predicted from the motivation paradox by looking at the difference between stress management and self-motivation scores. But overall, somebody with a high score on stress management will likely not have issues with flipping, but somebody with a low score will predictably have significant issues there. The purpose of this module is to review paradox theory, to give examples of applying it with the data, and to discuss key debriefing issues. The paradox debrief can be a very rewarding experience for the assessee. Often, however, the initial run through the paradoxes is rather mundane until you, through discussion, hit on key issues and behaviors, and then this leads to relating the paradoxes to each other, which often leads to great insights and new self-awareness. It's the discussion of how these paradoxes apply specifically to the work lives of the assessees that leads to its great value. If you have any questions, please let me know.